Are you feeling demotivated? All you need to do is buy some new electronic gadgets. Or should you? We're going to be talking about all that and more, but first, coffee. Now, the coffee we're drinking today is the same one that we drank in a previous video. It's the Sultan Kudarat Arabica from the Philippines. And today, instead of making an espresso with it, we're going to be making a filter coffee. Often, when I'm lacking motivation in some area, I just find that all I need to do is buy the new tool that will help me do the task a little bit better. But as you can imagine, that probably leads down a path which is very expensive, but also kind of, I don't know if the word is destructive, but sort of incompatible with actually being productive. It's like, obviously, spending a ton of money on a new thing isn't all you need in order to get motivated again. There's obviously something deeper going on, which is preventing you from actually getting on with the task. But nonetheless, I do find that it is incredibly satisfying to buy new gear. And I do find that whenever a new product comes out, that does seem to motivate me more to get into a certain hobby. The main one at the moment, like the one that has just happened, is the iPad Pro. The same thing happened when the original iPad Pro came out, and actually after that, I bought the Mobile Studio Pro. And it was just this constant thing. It's like, obviously I'd had an interest in drawing and I always wanted to get better at drawing, but the gear, buying the iPad Pro was what really got me into drawing a lot, because it's like, oh, well, I could use this app for sketching, or I could use this app for coloring, or I could use this app for animation. It got into my head all these cool things that I can do that otherwise I could actually do as well just without these tools, but is like the buying of the tool made me actually want to go ahead and do it. Otherwise it's like, well, paper animation is kind of difficult. Can I really be bothered? Actually, before we go on, let's turn on the hot water. And then let's also get this grind setting done. Now I have to actually wind it all the way back down to 0 so that we can start again. One round around the circle, another round around the circle. Let's go for 135. And as you can see, getting into like the nitty-gritty details of playing with the tool, you know, playing with the grinder, playing with the grind size, playing with the types of beans, playing with buying different roasts. Let's grind! Getting into the nitty-gritty of the details is what motivates me to like enjoy the hobby more. Because yes, I do enjoy drawing, but I also enjoy music. And some people just enjoy the absolute core of the hobby. It's just like, they just enjoy coffee so much that they don't have to make it. They just need to go to various places and enjoy all the different coffees. Some people enjoy music so much that they don't need to write music or perform it on instruments. They just need to go to concerts and just enjoy as much music and listen to it. They're just the actual core of the music and understanding like it is all they really need. But for me, it's like the performative aspect is where I actually have the fun. Like, yes, the music is complex. The chord changes were complex. The meaning in the music was complex. And how did it grind so fast? It took like 10 seconds. I haven't coarsely ground coffee for so long that it's kind of shocking to me how quickly it's going through this grinder. But it's these little details, like understanding how quickly the grind goes and what setting of the burrs is going to get the coffee grinds to be exactly the right size, and buying the right kind of grinder so I can get a good consistent size, or whether the kind of coffee I make even requires consistency in the grind size. All of these details in the manipulation of the tool are where I get the actual kick. And so for me, like, I'm not saying that you should go out and buy an iPad if you want to draw stuff, but for me, definitely the motivation to want to draw comes from, wow, I'm excited about learning how to manipulate this new tool so that I can get more into my drawing hobby. But the thing is, before I bought the iPad, before I ordered it, I was like, yeah, I want to draw more, but even though I had paper sitting here and a pencil sitting right here, I didn't draw anything. So it's like, obviously, the core of the hobby, you know, the actual just draw, no matter what tool you've got, that's not me. Like, I'm into the hobby, but I'm into the hobby because I like the tool. So, I've been trying to figure out how to come to terms with this situation, where basically, whenever I need some motivation, I have to spend money. Or rather, it's not that I have to spend money, but it's that I do spend money on these things, and then as a result, it keeps motivating me to for a little while, but then after a little while, it's like, okay, well, I've been satisfied by the purchase. I've tried drawing a few pictures, and now I'm just going to forget about it. And I think that's kind of dangerous because you do waste a large amount of money, but more importantly, you waste your potential. Like, you actually had the potential to kind of get good at this. Maybe it was a new hobby in drawing, or maybe it was art, or maybe it was music, or it could have been programming, or it could have been making some sort of indie game or whatever. I feel like there is this issue where if you are too satisfied by the purchase of the product, then it's like not actually going to lead to you making more of the thing in the future. And so one way around it that I found really early on was to not purchase the thing until I had achieved a certain level. So to put this into perspective, I was working on a comic that I was drawing at the time, and I really wanted the new Wacom Cintiq. Back then, Cintiq really was the best way to draw if you wanted to draw directly on the screen. But if you have to draw something like that nowadays, you've got so many options. You've got iPads, you've got Wacom, they make Cintiqs, but Wacom also make other things like the Mobile Studio Pro. There's so many cool tools out there. And I find that now, what I feel like really helped me through this situation was, if I want the tool, I need to prove to myself that I actually enjoy the hobby without the tool. To be really simple about it, that's what I found was going to really fix the situation for me. So before I drew this manga, I was like, I'm going to get the whole rough draft done. And I say rough draft, I mean like the version before I do the line work. And if you've never drawn a manga before, basically I do the whole thing in pencil. Some people go into loads of detail. Some people have like no detail whatsoever. But the point is, before you do the black line artwork, or whatever color it is you're using for your manga, I would make sure that I had the whole pencils stage done. And then I actually ordered myself the Cintiq. So really, the Cintiq was kind of a reward to myself for actually finishing the goal. But it was more that I was just trying to prove to myself, do I even enjoy doing this? And fortunately, and I'm really happy about this, fortunately, I do actually enjoy drawing. Like, I got through the whole pencil stage, and what sometimes happens at this point is that you realize, you know what, I don't even need to buy a new tool. I'm enjoying this so much just doing it analog. Maybe I don't actually need the digital thing, like the premium experience. It has actually been like months since the last time I made a drip coffee because I've been so into my AeroPress. But today we return to the world of filter coffee. That's not what I meant to say. Today we return to the world of drip coffee. Cheers. Wow, it's been a while since I drank a coffee this way. It does taste completely different. I think it's got a lot less texture to it. Maybe the ratios I used and the timings I used, I didn't really do it very carefully this time. This time it feels a little bit more like flavored water. I don't mean that it feels like it's completely watered down, but it does taste like gasoline and hot water. In a good way. Proving to yourself that you actually enjoy the hobby is a fantastic way to prevent yourself from going into a habit of constantly needing to buy stuff every time you want to get into a hobby. Or, for example, if you're just lacking motivation. Let's say that you thought you enjoyed making video games, but you thought, I need a new laptop so I can, code stuff really quickly and, beta test stuff as fast as possible. So you buy yourself a new laptop, you get your whole IDE set up and you're programming and making all this cool stuff. You make a game that kind of works, but it's satisfying that you've finished a stage of the game and then you don't really finish it. Like, I can't remember what the quote is, but it's something like success is 10% inspiration and 90% perspiration, or maybe it's like 20% inspiration and 80% perspiration. But really, I'm one of those people. I'm always inspired by stuff that I see. Makes me really motivated to try it myself. Like, I see a really cool manga and I'm like, oh, I wish I could draw like that. So I buy the tool, I draw a ton, I do the rough draft, I get 20% of the way, but then I forget that finishing off those details, actually getting in and working on the background. There's a ton of stuff that's just like, I can't really be bothered with all the other details, but when you read a great manga, you look at it and the effect is, whoa, this is insane. Like, look at all the detail on the characters, but also the backgrounds, and look at the way they mesh perfectly with the story and the way that the plot has been set up. The whole thing comes together because the mangaka has worked with their editor, who's worked with their assistant. They've put the whole thing together, and it's a marvel. It's a work of art. But I'm often attracted by the inspiration. Like, oh, that's a cool character. Maybe all I need is a cool character. And then I draw my own thing. I'm like, there's something missing. What's missing is that I'm like 20% inspiration. And part of that inspiration comes from buying something cool. Like, I guess the split for me is more like 10% inspiration and another 10% motivation from buying some cool tool. And then the other 80%, I'm kind of like, yeah, well, whatever. Maybe I'll just move on to a different hobby. And I've talked about this in other videos where I do have this issue where I'll get into a hobby and then I'll move on to something else immediately. Like, that's a completely separate issue. But if you're in the situation where you're constantly buying new stuff, especially when Apple releases stuff, so it's like, new iPad. Oh, I've got to have the new iPad if I want to be creative. You can be creative without the new iPad Pro M4. You can draw without the new Apple Pencil Pro. You can do all of these things. But obviously, if you had the tool, you can do some stuff that you couldn't do without it. So it's like you're trying to figure out, what are the things I need the tool for, and what are the things I can do without the tool. My way of getting around this was to draw as much as possible, find out what I can do without an Apple Pencil or iPad Pro. And then after I've bought it, then I can put the two together. It's like, here are the skills I learned without the tool. Here are the skills I've learned specifically for manipulating the tool. And let's see what I can create. What is the art that I can create which has been enabled by technology? As opposed to, what am I going to draw because I have technology? It's like it's a slightly different nuance, but you can see that if you are using the tech as a sort of catalyst for what you were already doing, which is having fun, being creative, or just enjoying a new hobby, then you catalyze it, you energize it into the thing that it's finally going to be. As opposed to, if you have no actual work ethic, if you don't even really enjoy drawing, now you're just a person with not very much money left because you spent it all on this expensive toy, which is just going to make you feel bad because every day that you hold it is another day that you feel guilty for not doing the cool thing. Now, I talked about this in a water break video that I did a long time ago, but especially as a YouTuber, you end up with these arcade sticks and computers and monitors and gaming consoles and things that you buy, but other things that you get sent for review. And in a way, once you get to a certain level, like you own too many of these things, it starts to become demotivating because they're all staring at you and saying, look at all the things you didn't achieve with me. And although I've mentioned it in previous videos, I feel like it's especially important here because the reason that you purchased this product was to get motivated. So if owning the product is now demotivating you, can you see where the issue has come? It's like the act of getting something into your hands, the act of spending money and buying something, that's where 100% of the satisfaction came. And so actually owning the tool, which is this amazing marvel of technology with 3 nanometer processes on the CPU, which is a system on a chip integrated with the tandem OLED display. Like, there's all this cool stuff. But actually, if you had it, it's actually going to be like a detriment to you. Like, that's what you want to avoid. You want to be in a place where you're motivated by the purchase. So that's like some percentage of it. But then the other percentage of it is the satisfaction of using it to actually achieve the thing that you wanted to do. And if you don't do that final part, then it ends up just sitting on your shelf, literally staring at you. And I have tons and tons of stuff that's like that. Tools, drawing tools, music tools. You've seen most of the tools that I've purchased because they usually end up here on the channel. Like things that I've bought and used a little bit, but then every day that I didn't use them, I felt like I should be doing this. It's like not only are you getting demotivated by it, but it's also distracting you. Like if you have 8 hobbies, let's say they are music and drawing and I don't know, programming. Let's say that you've got these 3 hobbies. If they're sitting in your room, then every time you work on your indie game, then you're going to look around at the shelf and it's going to be like, oh yeah, there's my drawing tablet. I spent like $3,000 on it. I don't ever use it. Maybe I'll use it today. And you go and use it. And then it's like, that's another day that you didn't finish coding your game. Can you see where the tool is now preventing you from reaching some level of achievement on the thing that you were working on? It's distracting you. It's affecting your attention. And don't even get me started on the way that social media affects your attention. Of course, the fact that we have the internet and social media, you're full of inspiration all over the place. But it can't stop there. If social media makes you want to learn how to dance, if social media makes you want to buy a new piece of, I don't know, makeup equipment, if social media makes you want to buy a new pair of sneakers, then essentially they're like luring you in with the promise that owning this thing is going to bring you all the satisfaction that you want. But what's really happening is that it's not just the purchase that should be the motivation. Because if it is, then you're left with all of these actual detractors, all of these things that make it kind of harder to live once it's in your house. I guess one key example of this, which shows up often in movies, is, getting a dog for Christmas. Like, what could be better? You've seen it in all these movies. Like, the kid's like, oh, I really want a puppy. I really want a puppy. And they're not really sure if they're going to get it. But then on Christmas Day, they finish opening their presents. They're like, oh, yeah, I got the new robot toy. Oh, I got the new board game. And they're excited about the stuff that they got. But they're like, oh, there's one more present. Apple does this at the end of their presentations. One more thing, right? And it's this promise that you're going to open this present and you're going to love everything that comes after it. But what's really going to happen is you're going to open this present. It's going to be a puppy. And you're going to love that you've got this cute little puppy, which is going to grow into a great, awesome dog. But you actually hate animals. You don't want to clear up its crap. You don't want to feed it all the time. You certainly don't want to take it for walks, and you don't want to deal with the barking. You don't even know which version of the dog that you chose. You ended up buying the dog that yaps a lot. If you're not in it for all that comes afterwards, then you need to ask yourself, should you really make this purchase? I'm not here to tell you in this video, don't purchase the stuff that motivates you. I'm the opposite. I am often buying stuff that motivates me, but I have to make sure that I'm ready for the after game, like the post game. Like buying it's so satisfying that it can make you feel like all the satisfaction and motivation is like it's all right there in the purchasing of the product. But actually, you don't want the ownership of the product to be a detriment to your life. You want the ownership to actually be the majority, the 80% of the experience. Purchasing it was just the beginning. A lot of people, especially, I feel like the people who really do the best with these tools, it's like they don't even make an unboxing video because the unboxing is not the important part. Opening it and acquiring it is like, who cares? Like, can somebody else just unbox it and set it up for me? I just want to use it. Like, those are people I often look up to because it's like, wow, I'm so impressed that you don't even want to unbox your brand new iPad. I'm so impressed that you don't even care about like the experience of peeling off the plastic of the screen or unwrapping the pencil. It's so satisfying. How can you miss out on that? But I think true creatives and people who know how to further their hobbies, they know that 10 or 15% of the satisfaction that happens in the unboxing stage, that's not where the real game is. The real game is, if you could just unbox it for me, put it on my desk and get it set up, I will sit down and I will do the actual creative part, the designing of the characters, the rough sketches, the line art, the screen tones, the coloring, the story, the plot, the backgrounds, the finishing touches, the speech bubbles, the designing of the it's just I was going to say the text, designing of the text, everything about it like is the post game. And it's too easy to think that buying it was the most important part, because really the most important part comes after that. So if you are feeling demotivated, or in the opposite way, if you're feeling super motivated because you've just purchased something, heed this warning. If you don't actually spend 80% of your time actually doing stuff with it, that purchase can actually work against you and actually make you feel even more demotivated than before you bought it. You need to purchase it knowing that the main reason you're purchasing it is because of the experience that comes afterwards, and then you need to actually do it. So fear not, if you've already spent the money on the cool new thing and you're waiting for it to arrive in the post, just get started right now, and I guarantee that you will enjoy the product that you've just purchased even more when it finally does arrive. Draw something today. If you want to see videos where I'm making coffee and chatting about random stuff like buying iPads, that was the topic of today basically, then check out this video next. I'm sure that you're going to enjoy it. Subscribe if you haven't already. That's all for today. I hope I'll see you real soon.